Because of the flatness of the land, an area formerly known as Lake Wawanosh was selected as the site for Sarnia's airfield, opened just a few weeks ago this year. The Belden Historical Atlas of Lambton County of 1880 states, "A peculiarity of this district is the almost total absence of bodies of inland water, but it is traversed by many important rivers." If you were to look at a map of Ontario, Lambton does have very few lakes within its borders. This is partly due to nature and ice ages, but is also partly due to intervention by man. 4 Lambton Lakes either no longer exist or have been greatly reduced in size. First, Lake Wawanosh, at one time a much larger lake, named for Joshua Wawanosh, chief of the St. Clair Ojibwe, until his death in 1871. Another small lake, Lake Chippekan in Canterre Park, was named after Wawanosh's sister-in-law, Chipkan. Lake Wawanosh was at one time a lake of about 1,800 acres, extending north and east almost to present-day Brights Grove. Shallow water, only about 6 to 8 feet deep. The lake was home to thousands of ducks, geese, other birds, and small animals. The first settlers near this lake were brought to a commune named Maxwell, started by Henry Jones. There is a plaque at the site up near the public school in what is now Brights Grove. These early Lambton settlers found an inexhaustible supply of food along the shores of Lake Wawanosh, which drained north and east along Perch Creek, entering into Lake Huron, west of St. John and the Wilderness Church. When they arrived, vast flocks of carrier pigeons, numbering in the tens of thousands, used to cross over Lake Wawanosh, blocking out the sun for several hours, but because they were overhunted, they are now extinct. As more settlers arrived, the need for more farmland and better drainage led to the draining of Lake Wawanosh. In 1859, the initial work by Sarnia Township on the Cull Drain was dug from Lake Wawanosh to Lake Huron. Improvements to the cut were completed in 1867, the same year we became a country. The entire drain is still known as the Cull Drain, honoring the name of the civil engineer in charge of the scheme, James Cull. The drained land, when treated with phosphorus, was black and fertile, leading to local market gardening to supply Sarnia's needs. During the early 1900s, this area produced most of the celery grown in Ontario. Next, Lake Whittlesea, a lake no human has ever seen. As you travel from Sarnia towards Reese's Corners along Highway 22, you might notice that fruit trees grow mostly on the north side and that corn, beans, and field crops grow mainly on the south side. Parts of this road follow along the rim of an ancient lake which extended east to London and south to Lake Erie. The soil to the north is the sandy shoreline of Lake Whittlesea, a lake formed 10,000 years ago when a gigantic 15,000-foot high glacier scraped its way across southwestern Ontario. Over many thousands of years, Lake Whittlesea was very gradually filled in as the rivers and creeks drained, becoming swampy ground in which a vast forest of hardwood rose. Now, 3 Lambton bodies of water named Lake Smith, Lake George, and Lake Burwell. At one time, the shore of Lake Huron was closer to the Ausable River. As the silt from each spring's runoff was deposited, the northwest winds would pile up a widening sand dune, behind which the direction of the Ausable changed, creating a natural harbor at present-day Port Franks and a marshy area with three inland lagoons named Smith, George, and Burwell. Early settlers found that these lakes each spring and fall flooded over their banks, making it difficult to settle and farm much of the land in North Lambton. By the time Richard Brewster and other settlers began to arrive in the mid-1800s, much of Bosanquet was underwater for part of the year because of nature and the twisting route of the Ausable River. The Canada Company, realizing that a vast acreage of rich black silt lay wasting underwater, undertook about 1875 the building of a drainage ditch from near Grand Bend to Port Franks. All of the work was done by hand labor and horses. This shallow ditch cut across a loop of the Ausable and drained both Lake and George and Lake Burwell. Only a remnant of Lake Smith remains. To complete the ditch, a gap was slashed through the sand hills to Lake Huron, pouring enough sand into the harbor at Port Franks to doom it as a harbor. Successive improvements of the cut filled in both lakes, creating a rich soil deposit on which much of today's North Lambton architecture is based.